So at this moment, we have to ask, well, what is life all about? My great hero, my great teacher and mentor was my father. And in 1994, he was 85. He was dying. He knew he was dying, and he was completely unafraid. I moved in to live with him and care for him the last month of his life. And that was one of the happiest times I had with my father. We pored over scrapbooks, and we talked and talked and talked. And at night, Tara would bring the girls over with slides of trips that we'd taken together. And he kept saying, my dad was never a wealthy man, but he kept saying, David, I die a rich man. He said that over and over again. He never once, in the time I lived with him, said, gee, you remember that closet of fancy clothes that I had? Do you remember that big car I bought in 1987? Or that wonderful house that we had on Roughdale Lane? All we talked about were family, friends, and neighbors, and the things we did together. And that was my father's wealth. And in those things, he was truly a wealthy man. We've got ourselves, he showed me so clearly what life is all about. It's not about stuff. It's about people and things we do together. In the 1990s, before Hong Kong had reverted to China, I got a letter in the mail from a real estate agent. Now, Tara and I have had our house now, we've had it for almost 35 years. A lovely place on the ocean in Vancouver. And I got this letter that said, offshore money is pouring into Vancouver. Now is a perfect time for you to sell your house and buy up. I'd never heard the expression, buy up. I didn't know that you bought a place and it became your home, and it was just an investment so that you could sell it and somehow get something bigger or better. Really pissed me off. So I thought, if I was going to sell my home, what would I put down as the things that made that home so precious to us? And the first thing I wrote on it was that Tara's mother and father have lived with us in that house now for over 30 years. So that our children have had grandma and granddad upstairs their entire lives. And I wrote that down, that has been so precious to us. My father was a carpenter. When Tara and I were first married, he built a set of kitchen cabinets for our first apartment. And when we bought the house, I ripped out that cabinet and put it in the kitchen in our house. It looked like hell, it didn't fit. But every time we used the cabinet, my father was there, and I put that down. My best friend came out to spend a week with us one year when I was building a fence along the waterside. He spent days carving the handle for that gate. And now every time I open that gate, I think of my best friend, and I put that down. My father-in-law planted a beautiful clematis plant along the side of the gate. When my mother died, we put her ashes on that plant. When my niece Janice died unexpectedly, we put her ashes on there. And every year when the beautiful purple flowers emerge, I know that my mother and my niece are there, and I put that down. My children have dragged over the years countless dead snakes and squirrels and birds killed on the streets. And they have a little animal cemetery under our dogwood tree, and I put that down. And so as I looked over that list, I see that those are the things that have transformed my property into a home, and that make that home for us priceless. And yet on the market, they are absolutely worthless. And I think of Aboriginal people around the world who see the earth as our mother and view the rocks and rivers and forests and soil as sacred. How do you put a value on that? And that's a problem when we evaluate everything in economic terms. Those things that matter most to us have no value at all in our economic system. And somehow we've got ourselves off into thinking having more and more stuff, having newer and bigger, is what makes us happy. So what is the challenge then? We have to slow down. What's the hurry? We're all going to kick the bucket, I'm sorry. But it's a reality we're all stuck with. So where the hell are we rushing to? Let's slow down, and let's take time to get to know our neighbors and our friends. And let's think about our children and grandchildren. and what we are leaving them. And then let's get on with the big job of reimagining the future. You see, our great ability, our great survival trait was imagination. The ability to dream of a future yet to come. But once we had dreamed of it, we could put all our efforts into achieving it. Imagine a world where we live, work, and play in the same area. So we don't need a car. All the fun and the action are going on right out there in the streets. Imagine a world where every building and road captures every bit of the sunlight and converts it into electricity. Imagine all of the roofs in our towns capturing the rain and growing food. Imagine cities filled with orchards of fruit and nut trees and community gardens so we can celebrate the seasons through the crops that mature through the year. Imagine extracting heat from the soil, from the earth in the winter, and putting heat back into the earth in the summer. Imagine cancer and asthma rates plummeting because we no longer use air, water, and soil to dump our toxic chemicals. Imagine zero production of waste because we design industrial systems like nature, where one organism's waste becomes another organism's opportunity. Imagine being able to drink the water out of any river or lake, as I did when I was a child. Imagine in Canada today, when you catch a fish, you have to consult a thick book telling you exactly how much chemical is in it, so how much you can consume every week. Imagine a world where you can catch a fish and eat it without worrying about what's in it. Imagine Australia with rich forests that can be logged forever because you're doing it the right way. Imagine lighter than airships that float through the air with massive payloads and very little emissions, or that carry people on wonderful holidays that float over the land. Imagine an economy that is in balance with nature's productive capacity because it incorporates nature's services. I could go on and on. I've only hinted at some of the possibilities. And what I've just hinted at are not pie-in-the-sky daydreams like carbon capture and storage. These are actually being tried in different ways in different parts of the world. So let us dream of what is possible so that then we can come together and put our efforts behind achieving that goal and showing what our species is truly capable of. Thank you.
David's offered questions, but I think he's just given us the answer. Ladies and gentlemen, David Suzuki, our fabulous first orator for the Green Oration. David's going to the back to sign books, including The Legacy, which has much of the first oration in it. I hope you'll be able to buy some copies out there. We'll be moving you very fast because there's limited time. So please get your copy out there. You'll see it in bookshops, of course, as well. I want to thank everybody who got us here tonight. That includes John Sampson, Kate Wheat, Karen Brown, Paul Rafferty, Simon DeLittle, Nick Crawford and John Gibson from Plants of Tasmania, Alison Etherington, the people in my office, the people in the Greens, but most of all, ladies and gentlemen, you. The next Green Oration, the second one, will come on the anniversary, 23rd of March next year. Please let us know, keep your eye out. We've asked Vandana Shiva, the great environmentalist and scientist from India. But if she can't come, we'll have another world speaker here in Hobart Town Hall to celebrate that first great meeting on the 23rd of March and to follow in the footsteps of that marvellous speech we've just heard. Makes me think, you know, that in life moderation is success, and in politics politics is failure. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank David Suzuki again. I thank you all for coming, and I welcome you to the future series of Greeneration in Hobart. Safe trip home.